Hello, how are you? Yesterday, I was listening to an interview. I was in my car and I had it playing, and it was an interview of Donald Trump at the Convention of Black Journalists. And I was so disappointed in the journalists, the black journalists that are supposed to be representing the black community, right? They call themselves black journalists. And I would think that they would be bringing forth issues for the president or the future president of the United States that are relevant to black people. We have a lot of issues going on in our community. We have issues concerning affordable housing. We have homelessness issues in our community. We have fentanyl and other drug issues in our community. We have a growing crime and gang problem in our community. And they are almost oblivious to that. They want to talk to him about gender and race issues that have nothing to do with what really is ailing the black community. Okay, I'm going to play you the opening question that they asked this man when he comes to their convention.
A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color.
Now, why is that relevant? Why is that relevant that he questioned Barack Obama's birth certificate in 2007? Why is that relevant today? Right? Why would you take the man's time to ask him that when there's so many other questions that you need to be asking him about the future of the black community, right? Who cares what he said about Nikki Haley? They're rivals. They were both trying to win the primary a few months ago. They are not a concern to the black community. Who cares? The reason why they bring it up is because Barack Obama is black and Nikki Haley is a woman. They don't care about what's going on in the black community. That's not on the agenda. Their agenda is to push the division between race and gender in this country, and they're going to do their jobs to do that, and the hell with what the community wants or whatever going on in the black community. That's not their concern. So this is how it is, okay? Let's listen to the rest of the question.
Congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys.
Okay, then she goes into, oh, you told congresswomen of color to go back to where they came from. She doesn't mention the fact that these black or these congresswomen of color call him Hitler, call him a dictator, want to impeach him, want to throw him in jail. That is irrelevant. The fact that he told them to go back to where they came from, that's the relevant point, okay? And none of this has anything to do with what is going on in the black community and how to rectify some of the things that are going on in the black community. This is all about pushing their narrative to paint this man as a racist so they can serve the Democratic Party's interests. You know, this is what the mainstream media is about. And seems like the black journalists, they want to be part of this party. They want to benefit from this smear campaign. So they're going to do their part so they can get jobs with the mainstream media. And this is what I see.
You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Okay, now she thinks that she has done a great job, and her colleagues will pat her on the back, and the mainstream media will want to interview her now, and she may get a promotion, and she may get a primetime spot on The View or either MSNBC or CNN. But the bottom line is that she has not addressed any of the true concerns of the black community. None. right? And this is the opening question. This is why they brought this man there, so they can embarrass him, not to try to find out what is his agenda for Black America. They want to talk about race and gender, and they're going to use that against him. You know what I mean? Like, this is what their plan is. And this is why issues in the Black community don't get resolved, because they don't even get addressed, because the very journalists that's supposed to be addressing these problems, they have another agenda, and we're not their concern. Now, Trump's answer is perfect. I commend him for the answer. I commend him for not just getting up and walking out. He stays there and he holds his own. And I want you to hear what he has to say.
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the Black population of this country. I've done so much for the Black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for Black workers and Black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and and I say this, historically Black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it.
Now, that's true. We're concerned about jobs. We're talking about opportunities. This is what interests the Black. This is what he's talking about. But she doesn't want him to talk about that. She doesn't want him to talk about the fact that he provided more money for Black colleges and universities, historically Black colleges and universities, than any other president, including Barack Obama. She doesn't want to hear that. She wants to cut him off to get back to her agenda, which is about race and gender. That's what she wants to talk about. She doesn't want to talk about the things that really are a concern of Black America. Okay, she's going to run interference for that. Watch how she tries to cut him off now.
I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late. Just so we understand, I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working, or something was wrong.
Mr. President, I would love if you can answer the question on your rhetoric and why you believe that Black voters should trust you with another 4 years.
I have been the best president for the Black population since Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, she doesn't want to hear that. She wants to get back to her talking points that she has on a card in her lap. We're going to talk about racial issues, and we're going to talk about gender issues. We're going to put you on the spot about what you said 17 years ago about Barack Obama. This is what we're here for. We're not here to talk about what is important to the Black community. Okay, we just got you here under that pretext, but we are going to talk about how you talk about women that are attacking you, and how you talked about a Black president in 2007. That's what we want to talk about. Fentanyl is not on the agenda. Funding Black universities is not on the agenda. We don't want you to tell everybody that you've done that. When Trump first became president, now I live here in Atlanta. Atlanta is the home of the Martin Luther King Jr. Center. It is an area that takes up about 3 blocks. Martin Luther King's birth home is part of Martin Luther King Center. It's the home that he lived in until he was 12 years old. He was born in that house. Also, the tomb of Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King are there. Also, the church Ebenezer Baptist Church, where he was a pastor and his father was a pastor, is there, and the King Center itself, where they keep all the archives from the civil rights movement, are there. When I first started coming to Atlanta, I would go to the King Center and I would take the tour and I would talk to the people who worked at the King Center. And they would tell me that, there's a lot of things that we would like to do here. There's property that we would also like to purchase, to preserve in this area. There's renovations that we want to make to this center in this area, but we can't because we don't have permanent funding. We don't have permanent funding. We don't know whether, from year to year, we don't know whether we're going to get funding. We don't know how much funding we're going to get. So, they were concerned as to whether or not they were even going to have jobs, in the following years, because they did not have permanent funding. When Barack Obama came in, he did not give the King Center permanent funding. The way you give the King Center permanent funding is that you designate it as a national park. And that's what the workers were saying. They were saying, we hope that when Obama becomes president, because Obama had not been elected when I first started talking to the people who worked at the King Center, they were saying that we hope when Obama gets elected that he will designate the King Center as a national park, so we'll have funding from now and forever. Obama did not give them national park status. You know who did? President Trump. That was one of the first things he did when he came into office, is give the Martin Luther King Jr. Center national park status.
I want to thank Secretary Carson, along with Isaac Newton Ferris Jr., and the many distinguished guests for joining us here today. It's a great honor. Earlier this week, I had the tremendous privilege to join Isaac and Alveda to sign into law legislation redesignating the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historic Site to the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historic Park. The new law expands the area protected, and historic sites for the future generations of Americans are becoming so important. And this is a great honor for us and a great honor to Dr. King.
Which means they have funding from now and forever. Okay? So they don't want to talk about those things. They don't want to talk about the fact that he gave money to historically black universities.
Also breaking, President Trump has signed a bipartisan bill that permanently funds HBCUs. The bill provides more than $250 million to these universities and others that serve minority students. This bill, most known for simplifying the FAFSA that determines financial aid for these students.
They don't want to talk about those things. They don't want to talk about crime and education and homelessness and no affordable housing. They don't want to talk about these issues. They want to talk about what he said to somebody else that's in power that's trying to bring him down. Okay? This is the type of coverage that we get. These are our representatives. These are black journalists. They're not concerned with our issues, and they will be rewarded by mainstream media for doing exactly what they're doing. Making race first, front, and center, and gaslighting the people. This is what our journalists do. This is why our issues don't get addressed. You have maybe the next president of the United States, and what do you want to talk about? What he said to an ex-president, 18 years ago. This is the number one thing that you want to talk about with this man. It's a joke. And there's another question here that they ask him, and I just want to highlight that question too. Now, I thought this was going to be a good question because it starts out like, the lady actually has something to say. So I'm going to play the question.
Our country, yes,
Mr. President, can I ask you another question that is also impacting black Americans?
And that's very clear now. Good.
I'm sorry?
It's very clear. I hear you.
Okay. So Sonia Massey, someone from Illinois, an unarmed black woman, was shot the other day in her home by a deputy sheriff. The deputy has since been charged with murder. You've said police would get immunity from prosecution if you win. Why should someone like that officer have immunity, in your opinion?
Okay, let me just back up a little bit. In Illinois, like she said, a black lady named Sonia Massey was killed by a deputy sheriff, and the deputy sheriff was charged with murder. All right, there's no dispute whether or not this man acted irrationally, and there's nobody disputing the fact that he should be arrested and charged with murder and have to stand trial for what he did to this lady. But her question has really nothing to do with the lady's death. It has to do with Trump's policy, which he says that some police officers should be allowed to have immunity. So she's trying to say to him that you're going to give this guy immunity. Trump didn't say that, okay? And she wants to imply that this is his policy. So I'm going to let her finish her question and let Trump answer the question.
Immunity?
Immunity.
I don't know the exact case, but I saw something, and it didn't look good to me. It didn't look good to me. Are you talking with the water, right?
Yeah, well, police unions are not backing this person either.
Okay.
But again, why would...
They're going to be charging the officer. I guess they're charging the officer.
So why should he receive immunity?
Well, he might not. I mean, it depends. It depends on what happens. I'm talking about people that are much different cases than that. We need people to protect ourselves. And
okay, now I'm going to stop it there because she wants to harp on the fact that Trump wants to give immunity to questionable cases concerning police doing their jobs. This guy wasn't doing his job. There's no dispute about that. Okay, so this is just something to try to embarrass the president, okay, or the former president. Now, what should be of a greater concern is the fact that in Illinois, in Chicago, 117 people were killed or shot during the 4th of July weekend, and 17 people died. That if you want to talk about what really concerns the black community, ask him what is he going to do about that? That we have a violence problem in the black community. Wouldn't that be more important than asking him about a shooting that everybody, even the police unions, the sheriff's department, or whatever department he's working for, they have admitted that this guy was wrong and he's being charged with murder. She makes it sound like Trump is just going to come in and say, no, you're a cop, so you're innocent no matter what you did. We're going to get... Nobody believes that. So why waste time on this? Let's get to the issues that really matter. And this is not what their purpose is. Their purpose is not to talk about what's going on in the black community. Their purpose is to gaslight the community and create an even deeper racial divide and promote their candidate and be rewarded by the mainstream media. Okay, that's their agenda that's going on right here.
by the way, in Chicago, as an example, a few weeks ago, July 4th weekend, they had 117 shootings and 17 deaths. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. We need to have our police officers have the respect and dignity back.
Now, why isn't that her lead question? Why isn't that the number one thing on the mind of our black journalists? 117 people were shot just 3 weeks ago in one weekend, and 17 died. Mr. President, what is your proposal to deal with those types of violent acts? That's the better question. She wants to ask him about what he said about a congresswoman of color. She wants to ask him whether he wants to give the cop that shot this woman immunity. Come on. Really? Really? This is our journalists. This is our black journalists. These are the things that they think that concern us, that we are just waiting to hear the president weigh in on. You know, like I said, we got fentanyl in the community. We have gang violence in the community. We got children being murdered. innocent people dying, right? We got homelessness. We have a lack of affordable housing. We have education issues where our kids are dropping out of school. Aren't those the concerns of Black America? We have only 25% of Black children growing up in a two-parent family home. Aren't those our issues? We have an influx of immigrants coming into Black communities, and our resources are being used to take care of their food, clothing, housing, and shelter, and everything else. Aren't those the concerns of Black America? But if you just watch the Black journalists, the Convention for Black Journalists, you would think our issues is how he spoke to a congressperson of color who was trying to impeach him, or how he spoke to a district attorney who campaigned on the fact that he's going to indict him, and is trying to take all of his money. We as Black people are supposed to be concerned about how he speaks to her. Really? That's our concern? Really? It is? You don't see what's going on out here? You don't see what's going on? And you're going to ask the potential next president a dumb question like that. Okay? This is the type of coverage that we get. This is how our issues are addressed. And she's going to feel like I did such a great job. And you know what? Her colleagues are going to pat her on the back. Like, you really told him. And the mainstream media is probably going to want to bring her on to interview her. How did you feel when you asked Trump that question? And she might get a promotion. She might get a job with CNN or MSNBC if she doesn't already have one. But the reason why they get these types of jobs is because they're willing to go on and just neglect what really concerns Black people and make it all about race and gender. And the powers that be sit back and laugh. They say, well, they can't say that we're doing it because we got Black people doing it for us. So, this is something that they can't point the finger at us. And our Black journalists just fall in line. And our concerns don't even get addressed. We'll go through this whole election season and our concerns won't get addressed. Kamala Harris will come on that show and they will never ask her about crime. They will never ask her about the impact of immigration on Black communities. They will never talk to her about the people that she put in prison that were Black and the way that she kept them in prison, even though she had information that would have exonerated them and had to be forced to give up the information by the courts and release the Black people that she had in prison. They will not ask the serious questions of her. So as it stands now, our issues will go for another 4 years without being addressed, and the conditions in our community will continue to decline. Okay? But the good part is that Black people are waking up. We're seeing more and more people actually call out this idiocy that is happening. All right? When I go on social media now, I am so happy that Black men and women are speaking up and we are saying what we truly believe, because we don't have our politicians or our media addressing our issues. So we have to address our own issues. And we are going to change what's going on in the society. Believe me, it's not going to be business as usual. And as time goes on, the movement is going to just grow and grow and grow, and we're going to get results. We're going to hold these media outlets accountable, and we're going to hold our politicians accountable, and that's what they don't want. So I just want to thank y'all for stopping by and checking me out. I'm going to leave a link to this whole interview in the box below. And until next time, as always, peace and stay safe.